Story 1. I thrifted a brick oven pizza board even though I do not own a brick oven or make pizza. Story 2. I bought an Instant Pot replacement inner bowl that should have fit my Cuisinart pressure cooker, despite not being the same brand, but it just barely does not fit. I am holding on to the extra pot so that when my Cuisinart pressure cooker wears out, I can get a cheap Instant Pot and use it. However, my Cuisinart seems likely to outlast the heat death of the universe, so I have had this extra pot lying around for more than 3 years. Story 3. If we are being honest and not safe for work content is acceptable, I bought a $200 remote-controlled vibrator. I thought I would be using it with my long-distance boyfriend much more, but we broke up within days of the purchase. Story 4. My virtual reality headset was fun for a short time, but it never really went anywhere. Story 5. I bought a massage gun for neck pain after waking up. I went for a sleep assessment and received a continuous positive airway pressure device. The massage gun has never been used. Story 6. I got a crossbow, but I am not strong enough to draw it, so it is in a box. Story 7. For me, it is this ridiculously fancy candle I grabbed on a whim. Smells like a spa in a jar, but I have only lit it maybe twice. Story 8. In the past I owned an Allhausen tournament-style pool table that cost me $6,000 in the late 1990s. My wife began playing billiards and wanted to improve and try the sport professionally, but a year after we got the table she broke both ankles in a fall. I kept the table for 17 years. It took up half my recreation room. My wife died 14 years after the accident from an unrelated illness, and it took me 3 years and an assistant to finally get rid of the table. A professional pool table is not like a dining room table. It weighs as much as a small car and must be assembled and disassembled. The heaviest parts are 3 slate slabs that lock together, then are plastered over and felted. The frame is more like a cradle that supports this massive 3-part slab. Despite my repeated explanations, people often said they would show up with a buddy and a pickup truck. That would not work. You would need 8 people who could deadlift more than 200 pounds each, and even then the table would fall apart because it is not meant to be moved that way. There is nowhere to hold onto it. No local service would move it. The shops that sold pool tables were either gone or not interested. I was willing to pay, but no one would help. Finally, my assistant found a collector of old pool tables who was missing that model from his collection. A man from Tennessee understood the work involved. He sent his team to disassemble it and loaded it into a Ryder truck. He even paid me to take it. I split the payment with my assistant. I was so happy to get my recreation room back and now can properly entertain there. Story 9. Any gimmicky at-home workout gear such as steppers, weighted hula hoops, and similar items. Story 10. A Yeti wheeled cooler is on sale. I used it once. I will probably use it again, but I have a 12-volt freezer. Story 11. All of my high heels. I can't walk in them, but I will not get rid of them. Story 12. My apartment is terrible, but I got excited about some things and missed the red flags. I'm stuck in it and collecting dust because it stresses me out. Story 13. The robot vacuum is annoying and generally ineffective. It also performs acts of self-harm if left unsupervised near the stairs. Story 14. Honestly, it was a Dracula monster high doll. I was definitely influenced by the whole nurture your inner child discourse on TikTok. Fortunately, I have left that app altogether, and looking at this expensive doll reminds me every day to think for myself. It was too expensive for me to admit that I regret it out loud. Story 15. I purchased 3 metal detectors, one for each of my children and one for whichever parent decides to take the metal detecting. I do not regret the detectors the kids use, because they are still surprisingly enthusiastic. I regret spending 150 New Zealand dollars on the third one, because if you take a young adult with autism and his 6-year-old brother to the beach, the adult often ends up holding everyone else's belongings while the children dig for treasure. Story 16. My white Dior bag can take dye or color from pretty much everything, so I look at it and put it back in the case. Story 17. The Nintendo Switch seemed like it would be fun in the winter months, but it still sits on the shelf gathering dust. Story 18. KitchenAid mixer. It was on sale, and I had recently binge-watched several episodes of The Great British Bake Off. It is still in its box, but I swear that one day I will take up baking. Story 19. I bought bouldering shoes and chalk but was too lazy to go. Story 20. My framed artwork collection is still in a moving box. I love almost every piece I own. Most are prints or fan art, but I have not felt the urge to hang them. I hung them before in apartments where I stayed only a year, but after 3 years in this apartment, the frames are still boxed. The walls are solid, so I must use special nail hooks, which makes it more complicated. I keep feeling that the minute I put them up, I will have to take them down again. My employment is in flux, and the political situation is worse. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Hanging the pictures would be declaring that I want to stay, and I am afraid I would have to undo that. I needed to type that out. Thank you for the free therapy original poster. Story 21. This is a 2022 Harley-Davidson Livewire motorcycle. It would have been pretty cool if the bike could complete the 92-mile round trip at over 70 miles per hour that the dealership promised. The sad part is it is probably the most fun and easiest motorcycle I have ever owned, but I cannot use it because it will not make the trip. It is now almost 4 years old with 2,300 miles, or about 3,800 kilometers, and just sits because I work too much to ride it. Story 22. I bought a used boat for our family. I spent a great deal of time and money restoring it and adapting it to our needs, and we had a lot of fun with it for 2 years. Now it sits at the side of the house, baking in the sun. The kids are teenagers and no longer want to do family activities as much, and it is a lot of work to take the boat out, especially in saltwater. It became exhausting. Story 23. I have many items. A ukulele, rollerblades, a red light therapy device, an intense pulsed light hair remover, an automatic hair curler, and small home exercise equipment. Each item costs more than $100 but less than $500, so it is not a serious problem. I have a habit of trying new hobbies and not sticking with them. Story 24. We shall see. I just impulse bought a brand new Italian accordion from Castelfidardo that cost $4,000 and another $1,000 to clear customs. It's worth about as much as all my other instruments, recording equipment, and effects combined. It was released from customs today and I'm waiting on the shipment. I feel sick with anticipation to find out whether it was worth the money or whether I've gone off my rocker, and this is symptomatic of a mental breakdown. Story 25. I bought one of those 6-foot Wylord plushes that Pokemon sold. I thought it would be great and had a spot planned for it on top of some shelves in my office. I severely misjudged its size. I knew it would be long, but I did not realize it would be 2 to 3 feet wide as well. Now it collects dust at the foot of my bed. I am too stubborn to get rid of it because that would feel like wasting $419.99 plus tax. Story 26. A juicer. I love juice, but the amount of produce it takes to make 1 cup of juice is insane, and it's wasteful if you don't use the leftover skins and fiber for cooking. Story 27. iPad Pro with Apple M5 chip. I never used my iPad with the Apple M1 chip. Buying the new, faster iPad did not make me use it any more than the old one. So, Story 28. A bunch of video games I never played and that I am not sure I will ever play. I was trying to be a real gamer, but the truth is that I only enjoy cozy games. Story 29. My perfume collection. I own over 650 full-size bottles, easily worth over $40,000. Story 30. The 18th century pipe organ is amazing, but I recently acquired an industrial overlocker and am hyper-focused on that at the moment. Then I shall make cloaks and a mask and pretend to be the Phantom of the Opera. Story 31. I got the LEGO Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon. I don't have anywhere to put it, so it's just sitting in my closet. The box has never been opened. Hopefully I can sell it one day. Story 32. I have too many guitars. It would take a lot of practice for anyone to be worth keeping, but my skill ceiling is hard to raise. The keyboard is the opposite. I do not play it much, but it was a gift and I see progress every time I pick it up again. Story 33. An air filtration unit just sits there collecting dust all day. Story 34. I bought a giant cutout of Kylo Ren from Star Wars, so I wouldn't be alone on Valentine's Day when my boyfriend was away. It was funny for about 20 minutes, and now he just lives in a box in the guest bedroom. Story 35. I bought a book set of the Villain series. I finished the bundle in a week and never read it again. I could have gone to the library, but it looked so pretty. Story 36. Night vision binoculars. I am tired at night and want to sleep, not creep. Story 37. $206 for a Palm Pilot. I will never forget it. I did not even need a day planner. Story 38. The $600 full-size classic very large red gumball machine just sits there. It is very cool and I love it, but I definitely do not need it. Story 39. I bought a small rebounder trampoline. I used it a handful of times, and now it is just a piece of furniture in my living room. The cat sometimes sleeps on it. Story 40. I bought a GoPro after seeing other people do cool things with it, but I do not do those things, so it became boring quickly. Story 41. I have a bunch of diamond paintings. I bought them when I was really into the hobby and thought I would not get tired of it, but I did. Now they are stacked in my closet. I laughed out loud. Story 42. Racing simulation rig. Like with most of my hobbies, I enjoy the building part more than the using part. It is still fun now and again, but I do not think I am getting my money's worth out of it. Story 43. Tub of Joe Malone body lotion. I cannot stand the smell of it now, and it cost me a freaking arm and a leg. Story 44. I got drunk with my best friend during a boys' weekend in Chicago and bought a Tom Ford leather jacket. It has probably cost me about $300 per wear, given how infrequently I ended up using it. Story 45. My personal computer components and builds have cost me a lot. I have some unopened AM5 central processing units and random access memory modules that I wanted to use to build mini personal computers, but they are just sitting there. I rarely use my main gaming personal computers. I forced myself to play through games and finish the new SpongeBob titles, which were fun. I am playing Silent Hill 2 right now. I tried to get into Battlefield 6 but lost interest quickly. I am trying to have fun, but it feels like the fun is gone. I guess it is just my age. Story 46. Roller skates. I'm 43 now. They were a pandemic purchase. Story 47. I bought a backpack with wheels, so I would not have to carry all my heavy stuff. I became self-conscious about the wheel noise and the extra floor space it took up when I rolled it behind me, so I started carrying it instead. I replaced it within a week because the wheels and frame added even more weight. If I ever fly, it will be my go-to carry-on. Story 48. Super cute boots, but they were too narrow for my feet and I could not break them in. Story 49. Every Lego set I have ever bought loses value. I love building them, but the longevity of the investment is essentially non-existent. Story 50. I purchased a professional-grade meat slicer, thanks to Kramer. I intended to use it to slice homemade bacon, but I have used it only 3 times in 2 years. Story 51. My mountain bike has been collecting dust. I upgraded it a lot and I have not used it for about 2 years. Story 52. An used, pricey Sony Alpha digital single-lens reflex camera. I would not call it an impulse buy, but I have not used it in 4 to 5 years. Story 53. Galactus popcorn bucket. I was excited for the Fantastic Four movie and loved it. I saw that the Galactus popcorn bucket was huge and lit up. People were buying them to resell at high prices, so I bought one. Now it is a $130 dust-collecting popcorn bucket that I use to hold my remotes and video game controllers. Story 54. The MetaQuest 3 is a headset my wife and I bought to try something new. We used it only 3 times. We purchased it about 2 years ago. Story 55. I bought a Cricut machine. I planned to make stickers with it, but a part that was supposed to come with it was missing. By the time I received the part, I had lost interest. It has been sitting on a shelf for over 2 years while I tell myself I will get back to it someday. Story 56. 26-ton press. I still have not used it. I bought it in November, but it adds street cred to the garage. Story 57. Electronic drum kit. I want a better one now. Story 58. Trumpet from the late New Orleans Music Exchange. I bought it in 2014 for $300. It was made in Czechoslovakia in the 1950s. But it's mine. Story 59. The PlayStation 5 is tucked away. I have played it about 5 times. I love gaming and wish I had more time or motivation for it. Story 60. My record collection breaks down like this. 25% are must-buys. My favorite albums bought at a price I could not refuse. Another 25% are older albums I picked up cheaply that I still enjoy. The remaining 50% were bought for more than they were worth, even though I knew I would never listen to them, purely because I was in a town with a record shop and felt obliged to buy something. I do enjoy the band Stained. They have about 4 good songs. I do not know why I assumed that, just because I took a train to another town, paying £35 for their Live in Foxwoods 2019 album was a sound investment. It does not even include all 4 of those songs. Maybe one day a random purchase will become rare enough that I can sell it to buy one of the albums on my rare wish list. Story 61. I talked myself into buying a $700 Vitamix blender, but I mostly use the container to water the Christmas tree each year. When I want to blend smoothies, I use the smaller Ninja blenders. Story 62. I bought a Switch 2 on launch day and paid $700 because it was summer break. I love Mario Kart and have over 950 hours on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but I played it for a grand total of 5 hours and have not touched it since July, laughing out loud. Story 63. Camera equipment. It turns out that $20,000 worth of camera bodies and lenses does not actually make you a good photographer. Story 64. The Steam Deck comes in handy when I am traveling, but apart from flights I rarely use it because I do not fly often. I thought I would enjoy playing while lying in bed, but I end up using my desktop anyway. Story 65. I bought a Novant Falcon. It was cool for about a week. Story 66. I bought a massage gun and thought I would use it every night after a shower, but it's so awkward to use on the back of my legs that I just don't bother. Story 67. I used to be deeply invested in Rubik's Cubes. I bought a whole collection at a yard sale. I don't like them anymore, but I don't regret it. They're fun to show to people who come over. Story 68. The Divum Die 2 is a little pixel art display. Technically, I asked for it as a birthday present, but I used it for a week and then never again. That was about 3 years ago. I keep saying I will take it out of its box, but that never happens. Story 69. I thought I would use Dremel tools for many do-it-yourself projects. Story 70. When I turned 40, I bought a guitar, an amplifier, and an effects pedal. I sang in a couple of bands as a teenager, but I had never played guitar, so I decided to give it a try. I watched YouTube tutorials and practiced for a few months, but it has been sitting untouched in the corner ever since, a silent monument to the fact that I will never be a guitar god. Story 71. I just bought an Adidas tracksuit with matching high tops. I'm pushing 50. Story 72. A 57-inch Samsung Odyssey Neo Dual 4K, 7680 by 2160 at 120 Hz gaming monitor. At the time, my spouse was upgrading the work setup they use daily. They said it would be crazy to each have one since they were $2,500 each at the time, so I also got one. For many years I was a very active gamer, playing World of Warcraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, Call of Duty Warzone, and racing games like Forza. For about a decade, I was consistently among the top 10 Alliance mages on Proudmoore. But I have to admit that at 43 I am getting too old to keep up and it is not my jam. I am terrible at racing games and so bad at Call of Duty now that I usually play casual mode because I can no longer keep up. I am discouraged and hardly play at all, so the monitor mostly just sits unused. I am fully aware that I likely built the last high-end gaming rig I will ever build. I purposely played all day yesterday so I could feel like I was actually getting use out of it for once. Getting old sucks. Story 73. This is the katana my grandmother bought me when I was a teenager. I haven't had many chances to use it, but I don't regret it. It was the last thing she bought me before she passed away. Story 74. I bought my dad a car, and it is just sitting in a garage because he died after the restoration and before I could give it to him. I am too tall for it. It is a Porsche 914, a clone of the car he bought with his signing bonus in the 1970s. Story 75. I switched to stainless steel utensils after eliminating plastic and silicone for health reasons, but the scraping on my stainless steel pans makes me want to curl up and die. Story 76. We have a ceramic cow-shaped milk pitcher that we put out when people want coffee. Story 77. My treadmill, which stopped working after a few weeks, makes a great clothes rack and charging station for my tablet and phone. Story 78. A cheap, shitty helicopter ball I bought from a Facebook ad. I know, you throw it and it always comes back. It is fun as hell for 20 minutes, and then it gets shoved into a closet for a couple of years until I remember it is there. It is still worth $10 because I get excited every time I pull it out. I laugh out loud. Story 79. Everything winds up in the trash at some point. Story 80. This is a very expensive drawing tablet that I barely used. I bought it before screen tablets became common, and that is what I would have preferred for drawing. I drew less and less because of university, and now I can only scribble. It is not worth picking it up and relearning. Story 81. I bought a Fire tablet thinking I would read more books, but I read physical books instead. The tablet just sits in a drawer. Story 82. Countless guitar effects that all sound digital. Story 83. Half of my possessions are unused. I've used my Roomba once. My water pick is still in the box. I have some music-making clicky spoons. Those are decorations. The list goes on. Story 84. Someone's complete collection of around 1,500 photographs of vintage airplanes. Story 85. A sewing machine. I thought I was going to take my thrifting to a new level. Laughing out loud. Story 86. I bought a resin printer. I have always been a maker and wanted to move into computer-aided design and printing. I bought into the incredible detail hype when researching resin versus fused deposition modeling and chose resin. I found it messy, toxic, and finicky, producing prints of dubious quality and durability. I later bought a fused deposition modeling printer and have had no failures aside from a few learning-related hiccups. Fused deposition modeling has improved a lot in detail, perhaps only 5 to 10% less depending on settings. The effort required for the resin printer was not worth it. I do not regret the resin purchase entirely and have kept it because it might be useful later, but it has sat in my shed untouched for about 6 months. Story 87. A tobacco warehouse near me closed 6 months ago. I paid $10 and filled my car with bags of vape juice. I tried a few flavors and I am not a fan of their juices. I have probably 10,000 bottles in my basement, and I am not sure what to do with them. Story 88. A calf-length tan suede jacket with shearling lining and cuffs. Beautiful and classic. It will never go out of style. Versatile for dressing up or down. It is a size too small and the shoulders are too tight. Story 89. They dismantled a floor loom to move it to my place. I have no idea how to reassemble it. Story 90. I have a PlayStation 5. I am 41 years old. Anytime I play that console, I feel like I am wasting my day. It is impossible to get good at games, especially with so much grinding and complex skill trees. When a new big open world game appears, I do not have time to spend on it because there is an actual open world outside my door. I recently got to play 2 hours of the latest Doom, which I still enjoy with the difficulty set a bit lower than normal. Story 91. I have a seed oil extractor. It is used mainly to extract essential oils and peanut oil. It costs $500. I have not used it. When the apocalypse happens, I am your oil supplier. Story 92. I bought overnight period underwear because I was afraid I would get my period unexpectedly on an international trip with my in-laws. We would be sharing a small Airbnb, and I would have little room to myself, time, or privacy. In a regular situation, I probably would not need an extra layer of protection or dignity. Still, after trying them on, I might buy another pair and an opaque wet bag in case I ever have to navigate that situation. I suppose we buy what we worry about. It makes us feel safe and prepared even if we do not use it right away. Story 93. I bought a slide board during the coronavirus pandemic. Everyone told me I was wasting my money, but the idea of sliding myself into shape was too tempting. Now the board leans against the wall, collecting dust. Story 94. It was not an impulse buy. My wife bought a foot spa but left it beside the parking payment machine and it was taken. She returned to the store and bought another one. It has maybe been used once. Story 95. My Nintendo Switch, which I bought solely for Animal Crossing New Horizons, now sits unused because I'm too lazy to play after work. Story 96. The pizza oven is a waste of space. I tried to use it once, but it never got hot enough, so I used the regular oven and it tasted fine. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.